I just really didn't think I would see the week where I upload 3 Loui Eriksson videos. This is kind of weird, I know that, but it's a slow news day. There's one NHL game on tonight, and I don't really do NHL playoff coverage on this channel. I mostly just talk about things that interest me and things that I could probably bring up to a group of friends, and I talk about them as if I was talking to a group of friends. That's basically how I communicate everything on this channel. I think you kind of know that already, but this is kind of weird because it's another perspective added onto this layer of events and ideas that we've been building up over the past few days on Loui Eriksson, and whether or not he's in a position to get movement due to his not being 100% with the coach. Just over a week ago, Ferraro was on Sekeres Price. And he's on TSN 1040 quite a bit, he's from BC, etc. And he was talking about Loui Eriksson, and not necessarily in the context of the Vancouver Canucks looking to send him out, but more in the context of a team like the Ottawa Senators trying to reel him in, because the Ottawa Senators are a team that will need to spend more money to reach the cap floor pretty much for next year. This piece of news was also on Spector's Hockey, and if you take a look at Spector's notes, this is a little bit of a tidbit about it. With the salary cap projected to reach $83 million, the cap minimum should exceed $60 million. Cap Friendly indicates the Senators have over $45 million invested in 14 players next season. Assuming RFAs Cody Ceci, Colin White, and Anthony Duclair are re-signed, the Senators must spend more to reach the cap floor. They might have interest in Eriksson, but he'd have to waive his no-trade clause. And I think that's pretty much the big thing here that Ferraro was talking about, how the Senators need more money to spend and how they probably could target a guy like Eriksson if they wanted to spend that money. But again, with all of this stuff with the trades and the RFAs and the signings, everything is contingent on whether or not Eriksson would want out, whether he'd be willing to waive the no-trade clause. And in my opinion, I don't really know. I don't know anything about whether or not Eriksson really loves playing here. He talked about it in his Swedish interview that he likes Vancouver. It's been good to him, it's been good to his kids and everything. But playing with the team is a different story, just based off of everything he said about Travis Green in the Swedish media. Now, I will give the benefit of the doubt. I believe Google Translate might have been a little bit more harsh in the translation than it was intended. I did get a few comments saying that Swedish language and Swedish words and sentences are particularly given at a more face value kind of way if you compare it to English, where in the English language we have many ways we can say the same thing to varying degrees of strength and, let's just say, hostility. In Swedish, it appears that the levels of hostility and bluntness, let's just say, are not necessarily that way too. So Google Translate didn't get it wrong per se, but they did make it seem a lot worse than it really did look out to be. At least that's what my comments said. That's what my Swedish commenters said, basically. So when it comes to Loui Eriksson, we don't really know whether or not he'd be willing to waive. I don't think we've ever asked him to waive before, because I don't think the Vancouver Canucks have ever been in a position where they've had a deal for Eriksson on the table that was contingent on him saying yes. But if this were to happen, he would be moving over to the nation's capital, he would be over to Ottawa, and he would probably be getting maybe some more ice time? I don't really know. I mean, the Senators did get rid of a lot of their mainstay guys because they're rebuilding, and they have a ton of guys in their top 6 who a lot of you guys probably wouldn't recognize. Brian Gibbons is on the first line. Max Verano, who they recently signed out of, I believe it was Princeton, he's on the second line. Bobby Ryan is on the third line, and you got other guys too, like Magnus Pajarvi on the fourth line. So hey man, I'm not trying to say anything here, but if Loui Eriksson wants ice time and trust from the coach, there's a team in Ottawa that doesn't really have that many players that a lot of people would say are super highly NHL caliber players. Now, I'm not going to disrespect Gibbons and Verano and all that, but Eriksson would probably get a little bit more ice time if he was playing in Ottawa, let's just say that. But going over a return, I don't really know what a return would be. And frankly, I'd be okay with basically anything, as long as it's not a long-term guy that the Vancouver media would probably scrutinize for the rest of their tenure here. A long-term, older kind of guy, too. And let's be real here, whether or not Eriksson gets moved, there's no one that's going to give up an actual good asset to get this player. Eriksson is just not that kind of guy who's going to fetch a return that Canucks fans would be like, yeah, that was an amazing steal of a trade. That's not really going to happen. Best case scenario, I believe we get maybe like a 4th or a 3rd round pick or something. Whether or not there's an NHL prospect involved, that's something too. We've seen the Vancouver Canucks get rid of their older guys over to the Ottawa Senators in exchange for a prospect. It's happened before, which is why we have Linus Karlsson today. But there are a few options here, and I'm not going to go through Ottawa's depth chart picking guys like, yeah, this guy, I can get this guy. Because I do feel that would be kind of pointless, but this video is kind of pointless too. It's just me blabbering on about potential trade rumors. But, you know, if there's a good fit anywhere, and it's not for Lucic, I'd be okay with moving out Eriksson, just because we did talk about him before. He doesn't do anything offensively, like at all. He's okay defensively, and he doesn't really make mistakes in his own end, but aside from that, he's basically a floater out there. He doesn't really do anything. And I know he's a nice guy, and I know he's got a family and everything, but we don't know anything about what it's like for him actually in the locker room. The guy doesn't do interviews. The guy doesn't talk to anybody on the media side of things here in Vancouver. The only media he talks to are the ones in Sweden. At least that's what it feels like. And I know the man's got a family and all that. That's good. Good for him. But as a Vancouver Canucks athlete, he's really not a guy that's bringing all too much, which is why any trade rumor doesn't really have that much merit to it, because he's just such a hard contract to move. But, you know, if Ferraro is right and the Ottawa Senators do want to get a contract that is going to help them reach that cap floor, then by all means, give us a pick. Or Eric Braunstrom. Hope you guys enjoyed this video of Social Gaming, and bye.